Hello, welcome to Monday Night Live. It's Yvonne here from Women's Fitness Adventures. How are you today? I hope that you are well. So Monday, 20th of February today, and all is well in the world. Checking in, as always. So I'm Yvonne. I'm the founder and CEO of Women's Fitness Adventures. We are coming up to 9 years old this year, and we teach, train, and take women on hiking adventures all over the world. And over the time that we've been doing that, we get asked lots and lots of questions about hiking fitness. So my topic today is hiking fitness. And in the past week or so, I have had so many questions around, well, not even week, past couple of months, I've been gathering my questions on hiking fitness, not only with the world that I'm exposed to with Women's Fitness Adventures members and ladies who come along, but also in my own travels around the world. And I see, hear and listen to all sorts of things and ask lots of questions. I'm going to share those with you tonight. And I'm also going to talk about, when I talk about hiking fitness, I'm going to talk a little bit about setting ourselves up for success, who our role models are, why we shy away from difficult, and, you know, when at times when we might feel anxious, how do we overcome that and, you know, move forward with our hiking plans. So it happens to all of us, the best of us. We have some doubts and concerns all the time. So let's just jump in and break it down. So if you are watching live, let me know. Hi, Diane. Lovely to have you here. And I did see your question about waterproof socks today, so I'll slightly touch on those tonight as well. And hi, Gay from Brisbane. So if you're watching live, please let me know. I know some of you stalk a lot of the time, so our members don't. Of course, you're shouting loudly that you're here and supporting and encouraging each other as well. So thank you very much. Hi, Gay. Hi, Cherie. And hi, Leanne as well. I hope the weather has broken there for you in Adelaide. I know it was particularly cool. It's certainly broken here in Brisbane today. A bit hot, and I'm a bit over the hot and sweaty. Looking forward to it. So I'm leaving the country next week. I'm off on our New Zealand adventure next week. So let's hope the weather is just going to turn it on nicely in New Zealand. Hello, Sandra. Hello, Carolyn. Lovely to have you here. Hello, Leah, as well. Lovely to have you here too. So tonight I'm going to talk about hiking fitness, and I get asked lots and lots of questions about it all the time. And if you have a question that you'd like answered, then please pop that in to the chat box. Or if you have a comment about your hiking fitness, or, you know, someone else's hiking fitness, then please let me know as well, or something that is a burning question for you. So hi, Ellen, and hi, Margaret as well from Cairns. So we're from one end of the country to the other tonight. And hello, Helen as well. So the questions I get asked around hiking fitness and our Adventure Ready for Hiking course that we started a couple of weeks ago covers a lot of these questions and topics as well, and we go into it in a lot more detail. And for our members, our masterclass in March, mid-March, will also go into it in a lot more detail as well. And hi, Meg. So one of the most important things with hiking fitness is that there absolutely nothing is a substitute for time on the trail. And you know, people say, how do I get hiking fit? It's the same way you get swimming fit, or the same way that you get golf fit, or whatever, you know, the term is for golf, or, you know, anything, is you actually have to spend time doing that activity or sport. Yes, Alethea, I can see you there. Well, I can only see your name, but thank you for letting us know that you're there. So it's really important that you spend time on the trail, because to get hiking fit, you need to spend time in the environment that you're actually wanting to get fit for. It doesn't mean you have to actually know everything, and it doesn't mean you have to be an expert or be fast or be furious or whatever it might be. You simply need to spend time in that environment to get to know, so you can understand your own body and how it responds. And, you know, lots of the time I see people out on the trails who have booked into something, and they'll just see me out on the trail and ask me a question. And it's, well, I didn't realize it would be like this. Or, yeah, I had some training, but I didn't think it would be as hard. And a couple of years ago, I did the Kokoda Trail. I've done that twice in New Guinea, which is a good thing that I did it then, because I'm not sure post-COVID and with the unrest in PNG at the moment, and, you know, not all operators are back to speed, that the New Guinea Trail, the Kokoda Trail in New Guinea, would be a place to be right now. But people would say to me, was it hard? And, well, yes, it is. But if you train for something, it's not hard. And when I first wanted to do that, which was 7 years ago now, I knew I had to break it down. And it's the same principle whether you are looking to do an extremely challenging hike or if you are just starting out. You need to break it down because it can seem really overwhelming. And it's important to really understand your body and understand how you will respond to things. And the training is the perfect place to do it. And there's some statistic out there that, 6 out of 10 or 60% of people, or 40% of people 40%, just flick that 40-60 around. 40% of people who book onto a hike somewhere in the world don't complete it. And they don't complete it because they've either perceived that it's not as difficult. How hard can it be? And I was talking to someone about Machu Picchu in Peru the other day, and how hard can it be? Well, it can be really hard, but it was knowing those right questions to ask, not only of the supplier, which is a whole, or, whoever you're going with, a whole nother question, but also of yourself. So what am I like at hills? Do I like hills? Do I not like hills? What do I need to do to be good at that? How can I replicate that experience so that when I get there, I'm not totally overwhelmed? I'm not thinking from day one that this is just not possible for me. I want to turn around and I want to go home. And one of my good friends, actually, he said that the other day. He got there and on the first day he wanted to spit the dummy and leave home, leave the trail and not come back. So it's knowing your body and how it responds in the actual hiking environment that you want to be in. So if you want to go hike Kokoda, you need to do some training. So how does your body respond each and every time that you go out? And how do you increase your distance or your speed or your ability to improve your cardio? And how do you know if you're improving as well? And how do you do it so that you stay and remain injury-free, not only in the lead up to where you're going hiking, or each day, if or each week, if you are a regular weekly hiker. But how do you remain injury-free ongoing, and what type of muscles do you need to strengthen, and what type of mindset do you have? Because our hiking fitness is not just about physically being strong for hiking, it's about mentally being strong as well. So let me just check in. And hello, Margie, and hello, Leanne, another Leanne, and hello, Brod. Nice to have you all here as well. So I am talking about hiking fitness, and I've got some notes here because I was preparing for our upcoming masterclass. And how do I, as I'm building up my hiking fitness, how do I safely get from point A to point B each week? Now, that's not necessarily starting at track A and finishing at track B. That's how do I get from hiking 2 kilometers to 4 kilometers, from 4 kilometers to 8 kilometers? How do I safely do that and safely get back in terms of preserving my body, avoiding overload, avoiding fatigue, and then fatigue and overload leads to injury. And overload can come from increasing our load too quickly, increasing our speed or pace too quickly, increasing our incline, increasing our distance too quickly, and or mixing all of those things at once. So that's really some things to consider. And if this is your first time or your 100th time and you're coming to it from a little niggle or something like that, then these are really important things to consider. And Kerry, I see your comment there, and I know that you're interested in that topic as well. So part of our masterclass for March was born from that topic as well. And hi, Michelle, first time joining in on the chat. Awesome. So we are talking about hiking fitness and how do we get hiking fitness? If we have it, how do we improve our hiking fitness? How do we not give up on ourselves with our hiking fitness as well? And the other thing, there's lots of things and I've jumped all over the place. So if you've got a particular question, please ask, is knowing your body as well. So knowing how it responds and how it feels when you put on a pack, knowing how it responds and feels when you are in heat, knowing, and right now, if you're in Queensland, you know how it feels. It doesn't feel pleasant. If you are striding it out for the first time, trying to get a distance over a time frame, how does that feel? How does your body respond? Not only on the trail, not only when you finish, but days after. How do you hydrate? All of these things that when we think about hiking fitness, it's not just about how physically we can go from point A to B. It's about how we mentally approach it, how we physically approach it, how we respond to ourselves afterwards, what we say to ourselves, what we do to ourselves. Just going to pop up. So Kerry's super interested in this topic, and Brod says, this is just the discussion I'm reading right now. Thank you. Yeah. And I've noticed inside our membership that everyone is stepping it up quite a lot in terms of their understanding and knowledge of hiking fitness and looking for more guidance and more support, which is absolutely fantastic, because if we measure the success of our members who are capable of, doing trails, and Brod, I've seen you go from, from here to here with your hiking skills and approach and, attitude to taking on any trail. And I think that's fantastic. But the other thing with hiking fitness is how to be your best advocate for fitness. And one of the things I'll touch on, and I'll come back to hiking fitness in a minute, is allowing ourselves enough time and space to become better at our hiking fitness. When I say better, to improve or boost or level up to the next level of hiking fitness. And one of the things as women that we do, and this is, may think I digress, but it's totally related, is that I think sometimes as women, we may give up on ourselves quite sooner than we need to, because, and this follows on from last week's, that consistency over time. Think of yourself as LeBron James, the basketballer who, what did he have? 38,000 shots to be the greatest NBL shooter of all time. He didn't get there by doing it once or twice. But also as women, we carry a lot of guilt when we spend time on ourselves. And if we look at who our role models were, most of our role models were our parents, our mothers in particular, and our mothers in the era that they grew up, and they were beautiful role models, not saying they weren't in any way, but all they knew was what they learned from their mothers as well. And that was that we were there to nurture and care and love our families and give everything we had to them, so that our time would go first and foremost to them. As someone said the other day, we'd eat the fruit last, what was the leftover fruit last. So when we stepped away and gave time to ourselves, that guilt feeling of, I should be doing something else. So that ties into hiking fitness as well, because sometimes we feel with our hiking fitness that we're guilty if we spend some time or a lot of time on our own hobby or time for ourselves, even though it fills us up and makes us a better person, or that we, when we talk to ourselves, that we can talk ourselves into or out of something. So that hike might be out of my league, or that one is too challenging for me, or that one, I could never do that, or that's for people who do this, or I had this injury from 5 years ago, or whatever it might be. So our hiking fitness is not only, sorry, I'm moving on my chair, not only just a physical, but it's an emotional thing as well. So, where are you have to learn where you are at with your current hiking fitness level in order to make progress. And Brod and Kerry, if you want to just make a comment, if you have any particular question that you would like answered. And Leanne says, that's why I'm looking at Couch to Mountain. Yeah, the Couch to Mountain program will open pretty soon. I'm just putting the finishing touches on the next piece. But if you are looking to get started from being on the couch for whatever reason, then the Couch to Mountain program will take you through that beautiful journey. But you need to know your current hiking fitness level physically and mentally in order to make progress, and you need to be able to measure that. But also hiking fitness, nothing is a substitute for the trail. Spending time on your feet in shoes on the trail will give you all the feedback that you need to know. And one of the things, if we, my notes here is know thyself. If we know ourselves, then we can actually learn to listen, not being critical, but learn to listen to the feedback that our body is telling us. So, for example, one of the things that happened to me this week, or a couple of things this past week, was I all of a sudden increased my hiking, and I run as well, and my running load. And I didn't change my backpack weight. I didn't change anything else. I just increased the volume of what I did. and I increased it by too much. And there's this rule of thumb we have, in which we'll go to in the masterclass in a lot more detail, is the 10% to 15% rule, where we literally don't load our distance or our pack weight over the average week, or our pace or our incline by more than about 10 to 15%. Because what we want to do is get the body used to something and make it strong, get those muscles, get the strength there, and then build on it again. So changing one variable at a time will actually let us know which lever might be the thing if we start to get a niggle, or, yeah, I added an extra 2 kilos onto my pack. Nothing's changed. I feel good. I'll try that for a week, and then I'll increase my distance, or then I'll increase my incline. And I know there's a couple of people on here who are doing our Adventure Ready for Hiking course, and we are breaking that down at the moment. So Meg says mental state is equally important as physical. 100% agree. Yeah, and Meg, I know your journey over the last 12 months was very much both of that space, and your hiking fitness now is really outstanding. And Kim says, I did 2 walks recently on the Toowoomba Range, and it was so hot, even though we left early. I found myself quite fatigued this week and chose to do a smaller walk. I'm curious if that was the right choice to make, or should I have persevered, as I'm in training for a multi-day hike and was unsure. Okay, and so when I say, know thyself, knowing thyself is really, really important, because, over the years that we've been doing this, we've seen women come and go through our world for whatever reason, and that's perfectly normal. But, sometimes most often, if we're listening to the feedback of our body and we're open to it, see it as a learning experience, not a critical tear myself down experience when things don't go right, is that especially in the heat, if you can hike in the heat, you can hike anywhere. That's my experience. That it's learning to understand, Kim, which it seems you did, I would have done exactly the same as you, how your body copes under stress. So heat is stress. If it's new to you, or you're changing distance, or you're changing the pack weight or anything like that, that's all the body under stress. And so taking that feedback of how we hear how our body responds is all part of our hiking fitness. So if we just go and go and go day after day after day for 3 or 4 days, and it's a hot day and we're not used to that, this is all part of our training, which is why it's so important to train, the body's just going to get fatigued. And hydration is such an important thing for our hiking fitness, especially in the heat. So my watch measures fluid loss, and I can tell you on a 3-hour hike or a 1-hour run, I can lose anything from 1.5 liters of water just from the sweat of that. That's not from the general fluid loss in my body. So unless that's starting to replenish, you're just going to get more and more fatigued. And when we get fatigued, either mentally or physically fatigued for whatever reason, that's when injuries can start to occur. And just this morning, we were talking at hike about going downhill, and how when we get tired, and we could see this on the members this morning, when we go downhill and we're fatigued and we think about our feet placement, we're not lifting one of our feet. And as soon as we stop lifting, there's opportunity to get caught on a log or get caught on a rock or something like that. So I said, knowing your current hiking fitness level physically and mentally is really important to make progress, but also, discovering why nothing is more important, or nothing can substitute for your time on the trail. Kim, I hope that answered your question. And I'll come back to it in a minute. And understanding that success is really in your hands for hiking fitness, and how self-management equals results. So it's that consistency over time. So, Kim, I would have made the same choice as you. And if we give ourselves the long runway for our hiking fitness, because what we don't want to be is remember that music from, I'll show my age now, from the 80s, the one-hit wonders. We don't want to be a one-hit hiking wonder. What we want to do is it's that compounding fitness that I've spoken about. So 2 walks and it was hot and you left early is great. And what happens is your body continues to build muscle the day after, we do some physical activity, whether that's walking, hiking, running, gym, yoga, whatever it is. And then the next time we do it, it builds on top of that and builds on top of that. So whether we do a big one or a little one or a big and a little, it's the same principle. We just build up over time. But if we leave our run too late, which people do, and they book on this hike a year out, and the goal is I'll train, I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow never, ever comes. And then you get on the trail and you wonder why you didn't follow the plan. And that is all about the mental toughness, the mental hiking fitness that we need to build. Brod says, I'm not sure what I should do next about the hills. Try again. Just keep walking around my area, but for a longer period to build more stamina. My load wasn't too heavy. Okay, so the thing about hills, and Brod, you've come a really long way with your hills, because I remember when we first met, you didn't want to do hills at all, is that hills don't get any easier. We get better at it. So the fastest, thanks, Kim, the fastest way to build our cardio fitness is to do cardio work, and hills and stairs are the best thing. And there's some days, where I walk up a hill and think, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever walked up a hill and felt like this. So it doesn't matter whether we've done 100,000 hills or our very first hill, you need to get puffed going up a hill. So what I would do for anyone who is thinking about their cardio fitness and whether it's good enough is, if you're extremely worried about getting out of breath, and we did this in our masterclass the other day, is just go get a heart health check from your doctor if you're really worried. But otherwise, start with, maybe a bottle of water in your hand and just do some local suburban hills. And so, Brod, I would, you've probably come a lot further than you think. But if we don't know what our starting point is, then we can't actually determine whether we're successful or not. So I've got the Pyrenees trek coming up in September, French and Spanish Pyrenees. And there's a lot of up and down, not technical, just a lot of up and down. And so I live on the top of a hill. And what I am going to do is I am going to set myself a target of, it's a suburban hill, so it will be sand shoes, it won't be boots. And I am going to measure, how many times, well, I might start off with like 4 times, 3, depends how I'll start, and see how long that takes me. And then I'll do that 3 times for maybe a week or 2. And then after 2 weeks, I'll come back and do 3 times and see if I can get up the hill in a shorter space of time, or if I feel any different. So I'll continually give my body feedback. So the first time I do it, I'll start at point X, I'll get to the top of the hill, go down, and that's 1. And then I'll do it again and again. And I'll write down time of day, how I feel, did I feel out of breath, was it hot, was it cold, and how long it took me. And then I'll do that again for, a couple of times, not measuring, and then I'll go back and measure it again. And so I can see that I've actually progressed, because I think that and I'm guilty as anyone, we're so busy looking forward that we actually forget to look over our shoulder and see how far we've come. And so, Brod, I really do think that you've come a lot further than you think. So that's a good way to build cardio fitness, because then when we build our cardio fitness and take on a hill, we're still going to get out of breath. We're still going to get puffed, but we know what our body feels like under pressure there. The other thing we can do for our cardio fitness when we're hiking up a hill is to slow it down. Not stop, but just slow it down. Slow it down so that we can still, if we wanted to, have a light conversation, or, feel that our heart's not about to come out of our mouth. I've got a new word for it. It's called thromit, throw up or vomit. We don't want to be in that space at all. Alethea says, I love that about hills. They do not change. We get better. I will think of that from puffing and panting up the hills. So positive. It is, and I have had the opportunity to run with Steve Moneghetti on a training camp. And, Steve Moneghetti, one of the great long distance runners, says that his first 2 kilometers of a run, he's just like, what am I doing? And this is a professional runner. It's like that same feeling And what he does is just checks in with his body over time. How's the legs going? How's the head going? It's this constant head body battle that we're fighting with. So Kerry and Brod, we had the hills there. So Kerry, if you've got any particular questions, please ask them. We've got a couple of minutes left on Monday Night Live. But I also think that you can't get hiking fit if you aren't hiking. Yep, you can't get hiking fit if you aren't hiking. So if you're returning from injury, say you've got a knee injury, you can do swimming, you can do the bike, you can do, a rowing, whatever it might be that you're doing, and some strength training, which will make your body strong. It will make all the muscles, the powerhouse muscles that we need for to be strong for hiking. It will make all of them strong, but it won't make you hiking fit. Like a triathlete has to swim. They have to train for swimming, train for cycling, and train for running, because multi-sports doesn't translate. So I want everyone to think about that. Leanne says, I'm scared to hike, but I'm happy to walk. So Leanne, if you want to break that down just a little bit for me, because it's a common statement that I hear, but I think what really matters most is that, and we're doing this in our Adventure Ready for Hiking course, and certainly Couch to Mountain would be a great program, is that it may be that it may be that you're not scared to hike. It may be that we don't know what we need. We don't know what we don't know, and what we need to stay safe on the trail. And when I say safe on the trail, the feedback that I'm hearing is that I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to injure myself. I don't want to feel out of control, that this trail scares me, or that I could hurt or injure myself, or I could slow other people down. So Leanne, if that statement encompasses the scared, then you're in good company, because it doesn't matter what trail you're on. They're all unknowns for a lot of people. But when you break it down and give yourself the skills, knowing inside your body that you have the strength in your body, so working on those powerhouse muscles of, the hips are really, really important. The glute muscles, the ones in our bottom, are really important, because if we get those two right, they'll help our knees, right? And they'll help our minimize any pain in our knees and any pain in our feet, and minimize our tripping as well. Like, they're the powerhouse ones. Leanne, okay, so great. I'm glad I covered those. Cherie says, I'm still not able to walk the tracks as I can't tolerate my boots yet due to your toe. I'm walking the streets in sandals, but I'm worried it won't be so easy to get back to the fitness I was before my next multi-day adventure. So Cherie, from memory, we're not heading off till May. I think that's your next one with us. And that's the other thing, is hiking fitness is like everything in life. It's an ebb and a flow. So, and hiking is such a metaphor for life. We try and stay on the peak for as long as we can, but the peak, we're not going to be able to stay on the peak. We have to have the trough so we can have the peak. But if we think about the things that we were doing in our hiking fitness training, that got us to that good, happy place, or that if we're not in that good, happy place, what are the feelings? What are the things that I want to feel, see, and do when I get to that happy place? And what do I need to do to step it there? So, because our fitness might be here, and then all of a sudden we have something happen, we still have the skills, we still have the knowledge, we still have the mental toughness. We need to keep up the other aspects. It just means that walking or being on the trails is out for you. It doesn't mean you're going to lose all your fitness, provided you're disciplined about pulling in some of those other areas as well. So don't sweat it too much, Cherie. Brod says, I was like that. Choose short, rewarding, not too steep trails for starters. Yeah, absolutely. And Kerry says, I struggle mentally, heaps of self-doubt about my capacity, and you have a trip in under 2 weeks, and now deep in the can I do this? How do I work through hills? I've been trying to train, but blisters in early January has set me back. Yeah, I hear you, Kerry. And we've been training women for 9 years, and this is probably, self-doubt is probably one of the biggest things. And I know our Couch to Mountain girls, even when we got to the summit last year, were full of doubt, 100 meters from the summit, that they would actually get there, and they did. So I think sometimes we can overanalyze things. It's important to seek, know, and understand what type of hiking we're doing, and what type of environment, and what type of support, and what type of training. And if we don't know that, to ask the questions: how do I train? What muscles do I need? What do I do at the gym? Or what can I do? I don't go to the gym. I don't like the gym. What else can I do? All of those things to get our body in the space it needs to be. We need to ask the questions, hiking fitness, that we know and understand about the trail conditions and the environment, and who's leading us and who's taking it, which is our mental hiking fitness. And then you bring those two together, and as Brod said, we start slowly and we build. And each time we build, it's like strengthening a muscle. Each time we build and get a little bit of knowledge and a bit more confidence going up those hills, start slow, start small, and remember to look back over our shoulder and just see how far we've come with all of that. So the blisters, Kerry, there's a masterclass that we have on Happy Feet about blisters, but I think someone in the membership has put in a really great reference to blisters as well. There's a lady that specializes in blisters. But if you keep getting blisters, if anyone keeps getting blisters, have a think about why you keep getting blisters, because blisters is, in a really brief thing, shear. It's about, like, the foot in the shoe sits like this, and there's a couple of things that can give us blisters. One is our shoes aren't the right size. Two, our feet either swell up in the heat when we hike, even if it's a cold environment, or we might be dehydrated and they shrink. So it's all about this friction of how we go here. If we suddenly put increased pack weight on our back or on our person, then that's going to change. That's going to push that compression down a little bit more, and we're going to get shear there. It could be that you're getting little stones inside your sock as well. So gaiters that go, which you can buy from Bunnings Garden Department, just go off, and they're sock protectors, and stop stones from coming down and rubbing in there. How well we're hydrated. If we're normally like this and all of a sudden we're dehydrated, then, there's air in there for shear as well. So all of those things, Kerry, will help. But I think also the key is just to break it down, and we don't have to think about, now that's only 2 weeks away for you, about the whole thing at once. Just think of the first day. We had a trail that we did many years ago, and it had a swing bridge. I think I've said this story before, and that's great. It was perfectly safe swing bridge, and many of the ladies had overanalyzed the swing bridge hugely and had built themselves up into a frenzy. So by the time we got to the swing bridge, they were so worried about it, and it turned out to be nothing like they thought. Now, I'm not saying, Kerry, that will happen to you. I don't know where you're hiking or what you're doing, but I think if you just step it back and just take each moment for what it is, and if you've done enough training, and I know you've been getting blisters, but have a think about the blisters. There's some great blister protection called Compedes, but just think back to your North Star, the reason that you booked onto something, and that will propel you forward. So if you want a little bit more information, just email us and we can see what we can do. But I know 2 weeks is not particularly far away. Ellen says, sometimes it's important to realize that on a multi-day hike, you're with a group and everybody helps each other. It's amazing what you can do in a like-minded group. Yeah, absolutely. And Kerry, I'm not sure who you're going with, but hopefully you'll get a group that is like that, because I know in our groups we all have the same kind of mindset and do help each other out. And hi, Marianne. Oh, no need to be sorry, remember. And hello, Jelena as well. So, I could go and talk for hours and hours on hiking fitness, and I will in our masterclass for members in March. But just checking in, recapping before I sign off here. I've been going for ages. Just jump into Kerry's quote. I suspect it was heat and extra pack weight, as was overnight hike, that gave me blisters. Boots and socks were the same one. Hiking Milford, it's day 3. I'm probably most concerned about will be husband and 4 friends. So I have support. Okay. It sounds great, Kerry. Just share with us how you go, but just keep the positive. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful experience. So hopefully that will help you get through. Diane says, I've recently hurt my back. Oh, sorry to hear that, which put a halt to my movements for a couple of weeks. It frightened me that I was not able to do too much movement. But after watching the masterclass about the member achievements, yeah, that wasn't that amazing. If you haven't watched it as a member, go and watch the January masterclass from last year. It made me realize I can get back to it. Just need to break it down and do it gradually. Absolutely. And Diane, my husband, had a really bad back accident last year. And it's really frustrating when you're in that space, all of us, whatever our injury might be. But we just have to hold true that, how we got to be there with our hiking fitness is how we can get back to being there with our hiking fitness. And it is this roller coaster. We can't stay up here in the heights all the time. So, Diane, I do hope you get better. And if you follow the right health advice, which I'm sure you do, you'll be back to building strength, and your fitness is outstanding anyway, back on the trails before you know it. Just take it at the right pace. And Margaret says, the first one is the hardest, but so good when accomplished. Absolutely, it is, and having that support. So just quickly to recap, and thank you everyone for all of these comments. They're fantastic. Is that, hiking fitness is all about knowing yourself. It's knowing yourself physically and mentally as well. And we've heard here the self-doubt, especially self-doubt when we come back from injury as well, because we want to be in that space where it's okay to go do things, but we're scared to do things because it might hurt and be back in that pain space, and we don't want to be that. The importance of having a plan and getting from A to B, and in that plan is allowing enough time for us to take that space without guilt and to fill our own cup. And if we think about guilt and why we feel so guilty, it's probably, and there's a great podcast on the Imperfects. Again, I love that podcast about our role models, and what worked for our role models is what they learned from their role models. So there's generational reasons that we feel guilty. But once we accept and understand that, it changes the game. It really does. And that we shy away from difficult a lot with our hiking fitness. And it is literally, let's just take one step at a time. The toddler didn't learn to walk by thinking he had to run a marathon the day he could stand up. And be your best advocate is the other thing for hiking fitness. Commit to doing something. Don't be in the overwhelm. Success is in your hands, and self-management as well. This era of blaming somebody else for everything is not there anymore. Well, not in my world, it's not. We're all grown adults. We can all be responsible. We can all be really capable, but we just need to be shown how. And, if you get the right coach, the right support around you, as Ellen said, the like-minded support, then anything is possible, and self-management becomes a really nice thing, and that great sense of achievement, as Margaret says as well. Anyway, I have talked for a long, long time tonight. So members, look out for that masterclass. It'll be available to register online later this week. But that's it from me. I look forward to seeing our Adventure Ready for Hiking team tonight. If you're watching online, our book club is tomorrow night. We're off to New Zealand on an adventure next week. But lots of great things coming up inside the membership as well. And if you aren't a member, you might want to, I'm just going to throw this up, check out that. Our 5 kilometre for 5 days is March 20 to 24. That's also coming up. And Couch to Mountain is launching soon. So we've got a lot of things happening in the next couple of weeks, but it's super exciting. Thanks for tuning in. And I look forward to catching up with you next week. Thanks. Bye.